Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tadodayam Udiraye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of that, and unto Srila Vasudeva. Regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, which praise which answer the songs established. So we're reading from Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 8. So this is also, almost all the verses in Chapter 2 are famous, and this is also one of the famous verses. Yeah, the title of the chapter being Divinity and Divine Service. The progression of the chapter shows how one can really grow in spiritual life. And so, it starts off with the famous Savai Pumsam Parodharma verse, loving the uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service is what satisfies the self. And then after that, by rendering devotional service unto Krishna, one immediately acquires knowledge and detachment. And then text 8. Let's do the Sanskrit. Dharma swanutishtitas pumsam Vishvaksena kathasuya Notpadyet yatiratim Shama eva hi kevalam Dharma swanushtita pumsam Vishvaksena kathasuya Notpadyet yatiratim Shama eva hi kevalam Dharma sanushtita pumsam Vishvaksena kathasuya Notpadyet yatiratim Shama eva kevalam. Dharma sanustita pumsam Vishvaksena katasuya Nodpadye yatirate Shama eva hi kevalam Dharma sanustita pumsam Vishvaksena katasuya Nodpadye yatirate Shama eva hi kevalam Dharma sanustita pumsam Vishvaksena katasya Nodpanye yadirate Rama eva kevalam Dharma sanustita pumsam Vishvaksena katasya Nodpadike yadirate Shama eva kevalam. Nice, so they would do it together. Dharma, occupation. Sanustita, executed in terms of one's own position. Pumsam, of humankind. Vishwaksena, the personality of God. Plenary portion. Katasu, the message of. Ya, what is. Na, not. Utpadiyet, thus produce. Yadi, if. Pratim, attraction. Shama, useless labor. Eva, only. He, suddenly. Kevalam, entirely. Translation together. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So yeah, in the verse, the word shrama refers to useless labor. Yeah, in Sanskrit, there's words like parishrama, which means hard work and putting a lot of effort. And from what I remember, even the term for daily wage laborer, it's like shramika or something, where they do a lot of shrama. And so it refers to, this kind of, just imagine yourself carrying a heavy box of, what's a useless thing? Heavy box of something useless. And you go up, down the stairs 10 times, and then you go to the back of the house, and you come to the front, and then you do it again over and over again for no apparent reason. So, like, what's the point of it? So it's like, and oftentimes it's not apparent to the materialist, like what they're doing, like what is the purpose, what is the goal? There might be some short-term goals, but what is the ultimate purpose? What are some goals people have in life in general? What are some general goals that the run-of-the-mill person has? Find some kind of security, so yeah. What else is out there? Stability, yeah, sure. Attractive, or you said what? An attractive, or I don't know what to call it. Attractive partner, or someone you can show off. They can show off. That's, I mean, they don't think about that consciously, but that's part of the subconscious motivation. People really want to buy a house. They really want to buy a house. Yes.
Win first place.
They want to win first place. They want to be the top dog. Yes. They want to what? Revenge? Wait, revenge? Oh, okay. They want revenge. Wow, the whole purpose of life. Actually, there are people out there like that, actually. It's true. Krishna lunch, that's their life's goal. Make sure they eat Krishna lunch every day. What else? What are some other goals of life people have? I guess that's pretty much sums it up. From security, house, partner, revenge. Car. What's he say? Car. Oh yeah, like the yeah, basic and the luxurious amenities of life. So people want all that, and then yeah, and then some, and then if they feel they're wrong, they want revenge. Somebody took their car. Yeah, so those are some average goals of goals people have in their life, and so the Bhagavatam is pretty direct about it. That And of course, actually, the Bhagavatam it starts off with the verse itself starts off with the occupational activities of a man, uh, and the word for that actually is dharma. So in the verse itself, and you think, well, dharma, like it's saying that even if you perform your dharma, if it's not directed towards, if it doesn't provoke the attraction to message of God, it's useless. And so the understanding is that in each of our lives, in these particular bodies, we have a particular dharma. So based on one's inclinations, one will have a certain, work, a way of life. Some will be more artsy and they'll make more videos on YouTube, and some will be more, into dealing with things, more like to deal with just things and stuff like that. And but so everybody has their own nature, and so that's what it's referring to dharma. Somebody might become a dentist, and so the dharma musician, and dharma for this particular life based on our body and past activities we've had in our previous lives, it will dictate what we're going to do in this life, right? And so, but even that, that is useless if it's actually, that's what Bhagavatam, this verse is saying. It's of no real use if it's not helping us get closer to Krishna. And so, yeah, the question comes like, really, like, is that all for no use? And sometimes, some people's dharma is that they're going to be philanthropists, or they help others. That's their dharma, right? And so it's like, well, how could that be really of no use? And what do you think? How is it that these many things that you all mentioned, and these many various dharmas that people can have, how is it that it's completely useless? What do you all think? Yeah, once you're gone, it's basically that it's temporary. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing when we are in these bodies in this particular life, we feel like, well, sometimes when we're young, we feel like this is it. If today is not successful, my whole life is a failure. Yeah, so it can be very short-sighted. And so, yeah, in these bodies, we feel like this is all, you gotta, what's it, YOLO, you only live once. YOLO, yeah. So it's like, this is it. And, so there's, for the general public, as Prabhupada called it, the innocent, there's no way to have a bigger picture. And for them, it's like, yeah, this is it. Like, I have this life and I gotta make money and I gotta have a family. And then I guess people don't really want to think about death too much. Like, but I gotta do this in the prime time of my life. What else? Anything else? Any other thoughts on why? Even though, yeah, there might be some worthwhile goals people have, still it could be it's not much use, or it's useless labor.
It's useless because you take vantage point, you can see that they're headed for disaster. Ultimately,
They're headed for what? Sorry?
disaster,
Disaster.
because their soul is not. Their soul is trapped in samsara.
Yeah.
So, you can put as much icing sugar as you want on the cake, but if the cake's gonna get thrown in a fire, like, what's the point? So there might be so much philanthropy, or there might be many goals that seem good, but even if you think of philanthropy and doing something for someone else, okay, as our acharyas have mentioned, you can clothe someone, you can give them food, But the best thing you can do for them is like to change the trajectory and the course of their soul and where it's heading. It's way more valuable. In comparison to that, everything else is useless.
Yeah. Again, yeah, it's like the bigger picture, and yeah, in one's material life, there'll be so many ups and downs. There'll be so many happy moments. There'll be so many sad moments. There'll be so many calamities and so forth. But you have any calamities, Carmen, in your life? Not yet. Samsara, the cycle of birth and death. So yeah, it's like there's so many things that can happen in this life. But yeah, it's Krishna consciousness that really helps one grow spiritually. Not just spiritually, but it's actually a sustainable way of life, And otherwise, the way material life works is that there's all kinds of calamities, all kinds of pressures, there's all kinds of ups and downs in life. And so, that's why the verse we just yesterday in the class, Madhav Prabhu was asking, what are the various, one of the previous verses, the symptoms of Kali Yuga, that people are just disturbed. And that's why people are just, on average basis, are just disturbed. I was talking to one of my friends a while ago, a friend, and he was just saying, we were just reflecting that, without Krishna consciousness, like, what do we have? We have a 30-year mortgage to pay, and it's mostly in many ways burdensome. The things that the material world provides to us. It's just different kinds of burdens, and of course there's happiness. Just there's some material happiness, sure, but the effort that one has to put to get that little bit of happiness is a lot, actually. If you really think about it, it actually is a lot. And, it's that fleeting happiness that the material world offers. So the happiness that the spiritual world offers, or the spiritual life offers, is a lot more sustainable. It's not fleeting. And one only need to tap into it, into that spiritual happiness. All right, let's start the purport, actually. Who'd like to go ahead and read the purport?
There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. To the gross materialist who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body, there is nothing beyond the senses. Therefore, his occupational activities are limited to concentrated and extended selfishness. Concentrated selfishness centers around the personal body. This is generally seen amongst the lower animals. Extended selfishness is manifested in human society and centers around the family, society, community, nation, and world with a view to gross bodily comfort. Above these gross materialists are the mental speculators who hover aloft in the mental spheres, and their occupational duties involve making poetry and philosophy, or propagating some ism with the same aim of selfishness limited to the body and the mind. Above the body and mind is the dormant spirit soul, whose absence from the body makes the whole range of bodily and mental selfishness completely null and void. But less intelligent people have no information of the needs of the spirit soul. Because foolish people have no information of the soul and how it is beyond the purview of the body and mind, they are not satisfied in the performance of their occupational duties. The question of the satisfaction of the self is phrased herein. The self is beyond the gross body and subtle mind. He is the potent active principle of the body and mind. Without knowing the need of the dormant soul, one cannot be happy simply with emolument of the body and mind. The body and the mind are but superfluous outer coverings of the spirit soul. The spirit soul's needs must be fulfilled. Simply by cleansing the cage of the bird, one does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself.
So yeah, since the nature of the soul is to be eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, it always comes out even through our material coverings. And so normally people want to live forever or a long life. They want to be happy, and they don't want to be dumb. They want to have some knowledge, and at least they strive towards it. Do they achieve it? Sometimes, but so that's the nature of the soul, and so that's why, yeah, even though one has these material coverings, we strive for it. That's why there's universities, there's research for all that knowledge, that they want, that the humankind wants to find. There's a strive knowledge and the pursuit of happiness, and yeah, I mean, there's so much research on aging also, like to stop aging. That's why it's there, and so it's only natural that it's there because that's the nature of the spirit soul. So yeah, even though people might think, or you were talking about yesterday, your dad was like, "Oh, that's cute that you think that there's a soul." Even though people might think that, they might think in terms of the body, that we gotta do things for the body and everything in relation to that. The car, the house, the revenge, and whatever else is there, and you know, everything is in terms of the body, but actually, it's only it's like the soul is shining through and it gets reflected through the body, and it kind of changes it. It changes the original purpose of the soul. And so even though these goals then become, as Prabhupada called it, perverted, they become a perverted reflection of the original goal of the soul, the original hankering of the soul. And so then when it gets, when you're looking at something, but it's through like, whatever, a tempered glass or something, or even a broken glass, right? You look at something through the broken glass, you see it differently. So that's the soul coming through this, through the material coverings. And then when it comes through that, and you just mostly focus on that image that's coming through this broken piece of glass, you think, oh yeah, the goal of life is to be happy by getting a car, and then you get a fancy car that you pay $700 a month for, and then you're happy, and then you got to work to pay off that. And so yeah, when it's reflected through those material coverings, then we think, so we can be happy by doing these various temporary things. And it's interesting because the body is temporary, so then we place importance on things that are temporary. Yeah, most of these things are actually, we talked about the car, we talked about the family, the house. Of course, family lasts a little longer than the car, perhaps. And the house, it's funny because the house can last longer than us, but then we leave the body, and then the house, somebody else goes and lives in it. What else was there? Yeah, even that was interesting. Sense of revenge. I keep coming back to it. I've never heard somebody say that as people's goals of life in general. But yeah, it's interesting that people they feed off of that desire to vindication. Is that the word? And I wonder what happens when they actually get it, if they're actually satisfied, or how long are they satisfied for? So in that sense, that's also temporary. Kamsa did a good job with it because he actually wanted to revenge against Krishna. So at least he was able to focus on Krishna.
One time I got pretty good revenge on somebody that hurt me because I vandalized their car.
Okay.
And I've never done anything like that before and got away with it. I always have gotten the like really severe consequences for really small things my whole life. And then when I did something really big like that, and I got away with it scot-free, and I knew they knew I did it, and I went home, and I was like, on the way home, I didn't feel satisfied. I felt like, what the heck did I just do, And I had like talked with some friends about it, and they were like, yeah, that's not the way, So I just want to say it, in my experience, it left me with no satisfaction, but in fact, that I had to readdress, the way that I expressed being upset about the things that people did towards me.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah. And Esper, go.
take a more subtle form, then we think of it in a very intense way when someone mentions the word. But I think there's more subtle ways that are a lot more pervasive and more common. Yeah, a lot of people feel slighted by others in this world, and then they might live in such a way as to try and, you know, uplift them, well, not uplift, but elevate themselves in a way that, you know, gets back at the other person. A good example is you kind of have this, I guess it's called like incels or incels. So it's like men online. It's usually online that these things happen. It's like men that can't find a partner, and then they get kind of upset about it, and then they become a little anti-woman.
Oh, yeah.
And they form groups.
Misogynist.
Yeah.
Like the grapes are sour, right? I'm talking about that. Where were we talking about that yesterday? And maybe I heard a lecture somewhere. Yeah, the grapes are sour. You don't want to talk about prevention. All right. But yeah, all these various things that we think is the goal of life is really just a perverted reflection of what the soul really wants. And so that's why the process of Krishna consciousness is the topmost process, because it really addresses that. You know, the first verse in the Shastakam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that it cleans the mirror of the mind. So it really just clear, yeah, that's another way to look at it. When the mirror of the mind is all dusty, then the soul, you know, when it shines through it, you know, it's like a perverted image, or it's not the real image that we need to see. And so when we clean that mirror of the mind, we clean our material senses, and we're able to see like, oh, actually, you know, these are the needs and the hankerings of the soul. The soul really hankers for service. That is what really satisfies the soul, and specifically service to Krishna. And you'll see, like, you know, motor ignorance, you try to serve your senses in the most unsustainable way. You know, people drink, they get addicted, there's walling self-pity, and so it's like totally negative, right? Motor passion, like you're going out, you're gonna go get something, you make $1 million or $1 billion, whatever, or you know, you build this SpaceX to go to Mars, and you do all these things that you can, tasks that you can achieve and so forth, and then you'll be happy. And then motor goodness is more like, okay, more sustainable things, right, in our life. And so that's why the motor goodness is the platform that one needs to be at to go to pure goodness, where we realize, okay, what is really the hankering of the soul? Well, you know, what does the soul really want? And yeah, in motor goodness, you can see more of that service aspect coming in, where you start seeing like, yeah, that's actually is very satisfying. And you'll see people who, you know, like to serve. And motor goodness people normally do volunteer work, they do community service, and they feel some satisfaction. They can feel it, even though it might not be directed towards Krishna. Still, it's something beyond. Just, you know, they're thinking beyond themselves a bit. So they can feel it to some degree for sure. But yeah, the topmost is when you're actually doing devotional service to Krishna, and then you really, it's like this soul that's totally, you know, thirsty and parched. And just imagine, just think of when you were totally, actually I'm thirsty right now, talking thirsty. Yeah, you're parched, and all of a sudden somebody comes with a nice cold sparkly water, and then you drink it, and you know, it's like, oh wow, it quenches your thirst, doesn't it? That's okay. Thanks. And so yeah, just when that happens, like, oh, on a hot summer day outside in sunny Florida. So yeah, that's where, you know, that's the nature of the soul. That's the position of the soul when the focus is only on material things, then the soul really gets thirsty. And it's really, you know, it's just really quenched, and its thirst needs to be quenched. And the only way that thirst is quenched is when, yeah, it's like anything in this world, you know, everything needs something to be satisfied. If you look at a car, the car needs gasoline to be satisfied. The human body needs food and water, you know, at a basic level to be satisfied. You know, everything needs something. So the Oh yeah, in the Savai Pumsam verse, right? In the purport, Prabhupada talks about the dharma of the soul, the essence. Like the essence of water is to be wet, the essence of fire is to be hot or give heat. So the essence of soul is service. And so the quench of the soul is only satisfied by service to Krishna. There's nothing else really that will really satisfy it. And the more one really doesn't give the soul that, the more thirsty it is, and the more different ways it comes out. Thanks, bro. Oh. Yeah. And there's still one more paragraph. Okay, who wants to read? Kali, do you want to read? Oh. Did you have a pointer, or do you want to read? The need of the spirit soul.
The need of the spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and the spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead. There is a dormant affection for God within everyone. Spiritual existence is manifested through the gross body and the mind, and mind in the form of perverted affection for gross and subtle matter. Therefore, we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagements that will evoke our divine consciousness. This is possible only by hearing and chanting the divine activities of the Supreme Lord. And any occupational activity which does not help one to achieve attachment for hearing and chanting the transcendental message of Godhead is said herein to be simply a waste of time. This is because other occupational duties, whatever ism they may belong to, cannot give liberation to the soul. Even the activities of the Salvationists are considered to be useless because of their failure to pick up the fountainhead of all liberties. The gross materialist can practically see that his material gain is limited only to the time and space, ether in this world or in other. Even if he goes up to Shravaloka, he will find no permanent abode for his hankering soul. The hankering soul must be satisfied by the perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service.
Okay, Prabhupada sums it up really nicely. Yeah, if just a run-of-the-mill Joe, all the different goals we talked about, it's limited only to time and space, either in this world or in the other, in the next life. And even if one goes up to the Swargaloka or the heavenly planets, you'll find no permanent abode for his hankering soul. And it's interesting because in the heavenly planets, there's a lot of happiness, material happiness. It's so much fun. And I think, who was it, Kalakant was saying on Monday, in the heavenly realms, just this, you don't even give birth to a kid till like towards the end of your, when you're dying, you give birth and then you die. So you don't even have to bother with raising a child, and that's most of people's misery. It takes a lot of effort, right? So in the heavenly realms, they just have fun, a lot of fun, and at the same time, still even there, and that's why it's said that a human form of life is best for cultivating spiritual life, because there's a good balance of material happiness and material misery, because then one can be kind of see both of them in perspective, and then see, okay, this is not the place where I belong. I need to go back to the spiritual world. The hearing and chanting. Yeah, so that's what really wakes up the soul, the hearing and chanting. It's like Prabhupada talks about the sleeping man, right? And it doesn't matter, Prabhupada says about how it doesn't matter what language you're fire. Once it's like there's a fire, and then a sincere person will hear that and they'll just run out of the house. So hearing and chanting, that's our main business. And whenever we are in doubt, or whenever I'm in doubt, I like to listen to Prabhupada's lectures. Just even his voice is like it kind of helps. So I actually Prabhupada's lecture. I like Radha Maharaj's lectures too, and sincere souls who have made a lot of advancement in spiritual life. When we hear from them, it nurtures our own bhakti, that kind of hearing, and I was listening to a lecture by Ram Maharaj yesterday, and he was talking in the first canto, and it just made me think about how, in this context of this verse, that sure, people might be going about their lives, and but sooner or later, there's always a calamity or a test or something in people's lives. And the way the material world is inbuilt is that it's a wake-up call for people. It's a wake-up call. And of course, what they do from there, that's up to them. But it's like having, it's like getting a fever, or sometimes when you have a disease, the early onsets are some, symptoms. And they're like wake-up calls, like, hey, the body's trying to tell you, like, listen, you're doing too much on the sweets or whatever, and then start noticing a few symptoms first. So those are like, Krishna's wake-up calls in our material life also. That initially we might feel like, we're having a lot of fun, and we're just going along, but the spiritual wake-up calls do come in this world. And Maharaj was talking about how in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, when Uttara, she was the mother of Parikshit Maharaj, and so Ashwatthama had killed all the descendants, all the kids, the sons of the Pandavas, the 5 sons. He came in the middle of the night, he killed them all, and with the aim basically that there could be no heir to the kingdom, that the line of the Pandavas would end. And then Arjuna went after him, and then Ashwatthama in another moment of crisis and low character, shot another weapon, now specifically at this baby that was still in the womb, at Abhimanyu's son, Parikshit Maharaj. So that was like the last heir to the kingdom, like this unborn child. And so Ashwatthama does this act. And Krishna's, at that point when he did that, Krishna was actually leaving. He was saying his goodbyes and he was going to go to Dwarka. And so when Krishna was on his chariot and about to leave, Uttara, who is Abhimanyu's wife, she comes running to Krishna and she goes, the voice, how does she go? She goes, Krishna, Pahi Mahayogin, that protect me, your greatest of the yogis. Deva Jagat Pate, that one who is worshipped by the worshipables. Jagat Deva and Jagat Pate, a lot of the universe. I don't remember the last 2 lines, but protect me, because there is no fearlessness. There is no fearlessness except at your lotus feet. And so this mother is just crying to Krishna to protect her child. And so Maharaj is making this point that one's spiritual life is dependent on other devotees' prayers, that we should serve in such a way that we are able to get blessings from other devotees. And he said that, he was saying that Parikshit Maharaj, he was saved in the womb. The Brahmastra, I believe, actually had burned him, and Krishna in the heart, Krishna, he actually revived in inside. And so when he did that, the super soul in the heart, he saw Parikshit Maharaj saw Lord Vishnu, and so that's why the name was there. Parikshit means the examiner. So when he was born, he would examine everything, like, oh, is this Vishnu? Is this Vishnu? Is this Krishna? He'll look at everything and be like, is that Krishna? So the examiner, he would examine everything and see that's Krishna. And so Krishna saved them in the room itself, and Parikshit Maharaj always remembered that. And so when calamity comes, who can we take shelter of really? That's the question. So the greatest shelter is Krishna, and shelter that is greater than Krishna are Krishna's devotees. And so when calamities come, if the devotees are giving us their blessings, then Krishna is, it softens Krishna's heart. It's like Radharani, right? We talk about how we worship Radharani, and Radharani just petitions to Krishna, like, here's this little fellow, please show some mercy. And Krishna is Krishna gives his mercy. And so the same idea, when when we are serving nicely in a way where other devotees are just pleased with us or just happy with us, then Krishna is naturally happy with us, and Krishna protects. So I thought it was a really good point that the only reason Parikshit Maharaj survived was because of his mother's love. His mother's love for him, and his mother running to Krishna and to protect her unborn child. So what else? Any other thoughts, questions? We have 5 minutes. Comments?
Thank you. I was thinking about Shramava Kevalam, useless labor. That's something that we see everybody's endeavoring for, but it's something that gets spoiled from a get-go because it's self-centered. It's not that when there is a calamity, because if it is wrong from a get-go, it's already a calamity. It's already a calamity. And mainly because everybody's thinking, I want that. So because it's competition, it's a calamity from the start. Everybody's self-centered, it's already a calamity. There's a nice analogy of, I don't know if you see this animation of these long spoons. Have you seen that? There's a pot of whatever stew, and so it's like a 1 minute long. So everybody's trying, because the spoons are too long, they can't feed themselves. So they're fighting, they're really frustrated, tantalized about it. But then somebody figured out, if I actually feed others, and then others feed me, we can all be in Vaikuntha, free from. Oh yeah, there it is. 1 minute long.
Oh yeah,
have you seen that?
I've seen this. Yeah,
I'm really frustrated.
Do you want to share that on Zoom as well? Is that easy to do? Oh, no. Is there audio?
I haven't figured it out.
Bring some long spoons. Why would you bring out long spoons? Yeah, it makes me think of that point again that Marge was saying that we really are dependent on blessings of the devotees. Yeah, and even in spiritual life, one can think about I'm going to do the best job. I'm going to do everything right, and so forth. And this, I'm gonna like a mechanical process. I'm going to check all the boxes, and that's all good, of course. But at the same time, that's not. It is not sufficient actually. What one really needs is mercy from other devotees being happy with them, and just oftentimes blessings just come naturally when they see somebody doing devotional service so nicely. And so of course one can try their best mechanically also, but it can't be in a competitive spirit. It can't be I'm the best devotee, I did the best rounds or whatever. It's supposed to be more of a mood of service. Let me serve nicely, let me serve others nicely. Yes, bro. Okay.
One thing that I was thinking about when seeing some parts of this purport is how important it is to, I guess, apply some hermeneutics and how to, in an intelligent way, interpret what the acharyas are saying. Because in the purport, Prabhupada's saying, we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagements that will evoke our divine consciousness. This is possible only by hearing and chanting the divine activities of the Supreme Lord, and any occupational activity which does not help one to achieve attachment for hearing and chanting is said to be a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adisham Prabhu was telling me just the other day, he knows Russian devotee couples where the kids would go hungry. Parents would be like, oh, this is Krishna's will or whatever, because they didn't understand the duties of just being a parent, being a grihastha. So it could be so easy, unfortunately, when our head is not on our shoulders correctly, to read something like this and think, oh, I should only chant, I should only read the Shastra. It's not that important to take care of my wife, my husband, my children, which is, of course, ludicrous.
Yeah.
So the hearing, and I think the right interpretation would be that the hearing and chanting should always be there, but it's the glue that keeps things together. But we still have other duties to perform, of course.
Yeah. If the hearing and chanting is the foundation, then one sees one's occupational activity as something that supports that foundation. It's all connected, and it's not just like, I just have to do things that that are just hearing and chanting and not care of the family. But actually, when one does a regular career and that actually supports the family, then it's just it supports the hearing and chanting. So the hearing and chanting is the main thing, and these various activities are in connection with them because they give it support. Because otherwise you need a place to stay. You need prasadam. You need those basic things for the body and so forth. But it's all with the ultimate goal that this is ultimately actually supporting our hearing and chanting. So if the hearing and chanting is gone, then it is all useless labor, right? Yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that these things can't be there, because we have these bodies. They need to be maintained, but they need to be maintained not just for sake of maintenance. They need to be maintained so that we can do hearing and chanting. Yeah. That's good. Thank you, Gopi. Actually, in order to increase the quality of hearing and chanting, there's a verse that glorifies the service. That if one wants to develop affinity to hear and chant, one must offer service to those who already have it. Yeah. So it's not like hearing and chanting. If I just sit down, I can hear and chant. It won't be that easy at all. Actually, you're going to struggle unless one realizes that by service I can actually develop a desire to hear and chant and increase my affinity to hear and chant. Yeah. So they actually one supports the other. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's even more important. Service, you can't really appreciate hearing and chanting unless you engage in some kind of service. Just hearing and chanting won't cut it. At least I know for myself and anybody born in the West who is steeped in passion, lots of passion and ignorance. Service is a requirement in order to hear and chant. Yeah, it's in this chapter. And I always love that section. It's nice how it lays it out. The verse 16, which will spoiler alert. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. And by such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So this is it, right? If you don't have taste for hearing and chanting, or if you want to increase your taste for hearing and chanting, you got to serve the devotees who are completely freed from all vice. So you got to do that. And, and that means, serving other devotees, and especially serving Srila Prabhupada. And that's why it gives such a boost to one's spiritual life. One really, one can do anything. It could be a simple thing to serve Prabhupada's mission. That was Prabhupada's goal, to serve his guru, to bring Krishna consciousness to the West. So when one does that, and when one assists in any small way, it could just be scooped out of one halwa on someone's plate. But if you do that with that intention that I'm doing this to serve Prabhupada, who's completely freed from all vice, and even though if it's such a simple activity, it has a great impact. And so it could be as simple as that, or it could be like, yeah, I'm going to arrange this huge program, and we're going to get thousands of people who are going to come and chant. The quantity does not really matter. What matters is that intention. That, yeah, I'm going to serve this pure devotee, to serve his guru and so forth. So when one does that, then one gets that. Then Krishna, cleans our heart, and by the blessings of the acharyas, we get that affinity for hearing and chanting. But then we want to hear and chant more, and then we want to serve more. So it's like it feeds itself, both of them.
Since I've been in Krishna House, one of the most inspiring services that I've seen somebody do that's reminded me of what you're saying is at the Dallas Kirtan 50, like how epic, all of that, arranging this huge festival where thousands and thousands of people are, and these top tier international kirtaneers. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars, and the lady that sponsored it, the whole time she was there, she was organizing the shoe rack. She didn't even really participate in any of the glories of the event. And I saw her doing it like constantly. I was like, wow, this Mataji is like really going, humbling, doing some very humble service, because there's thousands of shoes. They have a whole shoe room that's the size of the shoe Prabhupada room. And she was in there all weekend organizing shoes. And she is the one that organized and paid for the whole event.
Anything else? And one last point here. Yeah, it is really nice to just do all kinds of media services, and then when one does that, then in due course of time, Krishna guides us in a way to some services that we really like to do for Krishna as well. So they go the both of them go hand in hand, doing what's needed, and at the same time, then as time goes on, we find what are the services we really like to do, really want to offer to Krishna. And nectar devotion, it talks about how we offer your most favorite object to Krishna. That's a form of devotion, right? And so same way, in the course of time, what is it that you really want to, how to serve Krishna? And that comes in time. It takes a little time to find that, but yeah, it does come. Right, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Yajna santo jate sarvagyoche jate